787-786-9466.
From these noises, you can pretty much tell this is a Stromberg-Carlson ESC, our second stop in the Commonwealth Telephone Company area in Pennsylvania, Quarryville. It's got the super fast dial tone, and when you don't hang up long enough, you end up here on the lockout relay. And then a flash from the lockout relay gets you back to dial tone. Let's let a dial tone time out and hear the permanent signal sequence. On a Stromberg ESC, the dial tone always goes about 33 seconds.
This is a recording, Quarryville, Pennsylvania. Your telephone receiver has been off the hook for an extended period, which has caused the equipment to time out. Please replace your receiver and start your call again. Thank you. This is a recording, Quarryville, Pennsylvania. Your telephone receiver has been off the hook for an extended period, which has...
Wait a minute, I want to hear this part again.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught that, but Dave was listening through an earphone, and he had a very definite reaction when that receiver off hook tone came on unexpectedly. Thanks to today's modern technology, we can actually hear that more clearly.
Your telephone receiver has been off the hook for an extended period, which...
Ah, the 21st century, so great for human dignity, isn't it? Anyway, here's a vacant code.
This is a recording, Quarryville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. Thank you. This is a recording, Quarryville, Pennsylvania.
The coin phones here are dial tone first in that you can dial 0 without a coin in the phone. It goes through immediately to a cord board in Lancaster.
Operator.
Oh, operator? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got you by mistake.
Okay. You want the operator?
No. I don't know what that clicking was, but I was hung up that whole time, and I don't know why it didn't just go back to clicking some more when I hung up the second time, but it didn't. Now let's try dialing 1 plus an area code.
Operator.
Oh boy, I guess that's what they do if you dial 1 from a coin phone. Since you can't do that, they put you through to the operator, who then has to listen to a customer dialing a whole number in her ear. Well, that's efficient. Anyway, let's dial our own number. By the way, that last dial tone came on in kind of a funny way, an extra click. That's because the operator was holding the line up until the last second before I picked up the phone. As I said before, they really do have dial tone first here. You can call the operator without a coin. What's funny is that if you try to make a local call without a coin, you get a vacant code recording, and that can be a little bit confusing. Here's a local office code dialed without a coin.
This is a recording, Quarryville, Pennsylvania.
The office we're trying to call is Hensel 548. It's a small step owned by this same Commonwealth Telephone Company, Sounds very much like Rawlinsville, the place we were last. This phone company doesn't have its own operators, and in these small steps there's not a recording either. They rely entirely upon Bell of Pennsylvania's centralized intercept in Lancaster. Here's a Hensel vacant level. But first I'm going to deposit my dime on this lockout relay just to see if that works. It probably will.
What number are you dialing, please?
548-1111.
Pardon me?
548-1111.
Thanks, it's a wrong number, I'm sorry.
Okay, bye-bye.
When a Stromberg-Carlson ESC is dialing out to a step, you usually hear the dialing. It's at a low volume, but it is audible. I thought I heard it on that first call to Hensel, but I was dialing continuously, so I didn't stop dialing long enough to listen. On that second call, I definitely did not hear it. So this ESC does not let you hear the dialing out, at least some of the time. One thing that is clear, based on the fact that the calls complete relatively quickly, is that this office does feature what's called overlap outpulsing. That is, it is dialing to the destination office while we are dialing the number. So by the time we dial the last digit, most of the dialing out has already occurred, and you get a cut through to the outgoing trunk pretty quickly. The next call is to Kirkwood, 529. Again, it's one of those small steps of Commonwealth telephone with that same kind of toneless ring. Aha! Did you hear the ring after the ring? I'll play back the tape. So they have more than one ring frequency in that office. That's kind of cool. This was done by independents well through the 1970s to maintain individual ringing on party lines that have more than 2 customers. Now in the Bell system, the general rule was that if you had a 2-party line, your phone bell would only ring for your calls. But if you were on a 4-party or 8-party line, you would have to put up with coded ringing, where your phone bell would ring for other people's calls and you would know not to answer it by the fact that it was a single ring or long short or whatever. The independents were a little nicer because they actually made individual ring frequencies. With 5 frequencies, they could accommodate 10 parties on a line, and nobody's phone would ring for anyone's calls but their own. I haven't thoroughly researched it, but I think the frequencies used were 16, 20, 32, 40, and 60. With those 5 frequencies, they could have 10 parties on a line, and each bell was connected through a resonant or tuned circuit so that it would not respond to any but the frequency intended for it. In addition, some bells were wired from the positive side of the line to ground, others from the negative side of the line to ground, and that made 5 frequencies good enough to give 10 individual rings. The next call is to Rawlinsville. I think we're dialing the number of the payphone that we used on our last stop. Otherwise, I'm sure we wouldn't let it ring 3 times. This company has a lot of those small steps with the toneless frequency rings. We've found 3 so far, local from here. And you know there's going to be a 4th, our next stop in Gap, which is a pretty interesting stop. The next call is to a small Bell of Pennsylvania step, Strasburg 687.
We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again.
Well, it seems like the small Bell of Pennsylvania steps also don't have recordings in the office, and they rely on the Lancaster centralized intercept. But they're using the machine intercept, the Lancaster recording. That makes people hang up. I wonder if Bell of Pennsylvania realizes that the independent tributaries around Lancaster are using operator intercept, taking up operator time for calls that could be handled with a recording. Anyway, there's one more local call. This is a small Bell system step, not the same as the last one. This time it's the 464 office code, which is officially in the Lancaster exchange. Based on the recordings we made in Rawlinsville, it appears Lancaster has 2 other central offices. One, a small step, 569, and then there are other office codes that are all in a big number 1 ESS, probably in the downtown building that has the crossbar tandem. We didn't call those from here, however. Here's 411.
Judge Assistance, what city? Judge Assistance.
Okay, first of all, that's going through the Lancaster concentrator because you can hear the Lancaster ring. But the operator is on 2600 carrier, so apparently the Lancaster centralized intercept and directory assistance concentrator gets its operators from some distant location. Maybe Williamsport. I know that Allentown gets its operators from Williamsport. The other thing about that call is I'm not sure how it ended, because she said directory assistance. I flashed my hook for an instant.
Judge Assistance.
And then either she disconnected or the trunk disconnected, and there was an immediate coin return and we were cut off to lockout. We didn't hang up. So I think the flash just made a click so the operator would disconnect, and that triggered the rest of the event. I'll play that part of the call again.
Judge Assistance, what city? Judge Assistance.
That's all we recorded in Quarryville. We couldn't try long-distance calling, and there weren't any interesting independent operators to make long-distance calls through. The next stop is Gap, Pennsylvania, and it's a pretty interesting stop. It's kind of like Rawlinsville, and we were able to make long-distance calls from there.